let's talk about how to create a signature stamp out of clay. I want to show you some of my sketch examples of designs of signature stamps. I have kind of a variety of sculptural shapes here. One thing that's really fun about this concept is you can be very playful with the sculptural aspect. I was inspired to create signature stamps after going to China a couple times and studying the CHOP, how they sign and stamp their work, and how sculptural the handles were. Having a sculptural handle makes it a lot more fun to use. So I want to show you an example of a stamp that I use regularly, and it is the octopus stamp. And you can see I have the little suction cup detail on there, and then this is the signature part where you can then stamp the bottom of your work. This is an example of how the stamp actually appears once you press it into clay. You really just need to make sure that you're firing this stamp to maturity. So for us, it's a cone 6 clay body, so we fire them to cone 6. I chose to not glaze the handle. You could choose to glaze some areas as long as you leave a raw surface for it to lay on the shelf for firing. I chose to leave the entire piece raw. What you're seeing on there in terms of the dusty cast, that is from when I use a speckled clay body. It kind of made a white film on the surface of the red clay body. So what I want to show you next is I was working on the fish signature stamp, and I am finished with the sculptural handle process. I feel like I brought it to enough detail to have a fun handle to use, but I also left it kind of chunky so that it wouldn't break easily. So I'm going to have the signature part at the fish mouth so that when you stamp down, you can press your signature into your work. So to create that signature aspect, I'm just going to take a ball of clay, roll it up, and press it flat. It's going to be about the diameter of maybe a penny or a nickel in diameter. And so now I have a surface that I can work reductively with. So I can use a cleanup tool for the carving aspect and a brush then for the refinement. So I'm going to angle the camera down here to show you what I'm going to do. So I have my little ball of clay, and I already have my signature ideas here. You want to make sure that you're reversing the letters, because remember, when you're stamping, the mirror image is going to appear in the clay. So you want to make sure that you're reversing. Now a K and a C is kind of easy because I can just flip it upside down and then it stamps just fine. But some initials might be more complex. So I want to start with removing the negative space, the area around. So just for the sake of discussion, I'm still going to do this initial backwards. So I've started with just sketching that in the clay. So then the area that I'm going to remove is the area that surrounds the letter, because you want the letter to pop out so that it presses into the clay. So then I'm just going to take my cleanup tool and remove that clay around the letter. And initially it's going to kind of be a little bit sloppy looking, and that's okay. We'll do some refinement so that it stamps nice and clean. So there we have the letter popping out very generally. So I'm going to go back in with the cleanup tool and kind of press the uneven areas back out of the way. Keep that stamp edge nice and round and clean in case that shows up. Sometimes it shows up when you're stamping. Depends on how hard you press the stamp in. So now I'm ready for the refinement. I like to use a damp brush to refine. So I have my water here. I'm just going to glide a brush over the surface. And it's going to be a little bit of back and forth between the refinement of the brush and the cleanup tool. So now that I have finished the carving and I've done the refining, I then wanted to kind of speed up the drying process so it wasn't too sticky when I was attaching it. You want to make sure you stiffen it slightly, and we actually use hair dryers here in the studio because in a high school environment we can't be using torches and things to stiffen the clay. So we just set the hair dryer on hot, and it just takes a couple moments to get it to a point of leather hard where it's not going to distort whenever I attach it. So whenever you're attaching your initial, you want to think about how you will remember what way is the right direction when you're actually doing the stamp. So with this fish, it's pretty easy. He's got the little top fin up there. So I'm going to cross hatch and slip it on this way, all right? So when I look at it, the letter is actually backwards, but then when I stamp it, as you can see, it will be forwards. So I want to cross hatch my connection. And because I am cross-hatching a high detail area, not using a scoring tool for that, I'm just going to go ahead and use the cleanup tool so I can have some precision to the cross-hatching. I have a lot of fins sticking out on this fish, so I need to be mindful of that. So as you're cross-hatching, make sure that you're kind of getting water down in there so it's nice and deep and really torn up. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this K. Water in there. Okay. Then I want the fish to be upright to make sure I attach the signature in the right direction so it's easy to stamp. Almost did it the wrong way there. Then press it on. Make sure you're firm about pressing it on because you don't want it to pop off. And now I have my signature stamp fish complete.